My name is Donald and I'm 56 years old. This is the first time I've attempted to put my life into words. I'm married to Lorraine, who is 45, and we have a 13-year-old daughter together. Yet this story begins only a few months ago, during a trip to Istanbul, a journey that forced me to question everything I thought I knew about my life. We were traveling with a larger group, 3 families, 16 people in total. As our trip neared its end, we gathered at Istanbul airport to catch our return flight to Chicago. The 11-hour flight had been delayed by 6 hours, leaving us with an unexpected stretch of free time. Our group decided to retreat to the lounge, which, to our relief, was completely empty. We settled in, sharing laughs and memories of Turkey, the bustling streets, the rich history, the irresistible food. Feeling the pull of habit, I stepped outside for a cigarette. When I returned 15 minutes later, something immediately felt off. Lorraine stood near a figure, a slender woman I didn't recognize. As I drew closer, my heart began to race, not from nicotine. A deep, unexplainable unease washed over me. My breathing quickened, my chest tightened, as though I were on the edge of a revelation I wasn't prepared for. Then it hit me, a memory so vivid it consumed me. I was no longer at the airport. I was in a church, 20 years younger, holding the hand of a woman I loved more than life itself. I saw her sparkling eyes, heard myself say, "I do," and felt the weight of our vows sealed with a kiss. Her name was Maria. I snapped back to the present, the memory raw and aching. I glanced at Lorraine and the woman speaking to her but couldn't bear to look closer. I muttered something about needing air and stepped out of the lounge. Outside, memories of my past surged. Maria. Her name echoed like a haunting melody. She was my first wife, my first love, my everything. We met in college in Columbus, Georgia, near the banks of the Chattahoochee River, a place we often visited together. I had been captivated by her from the moment I saw her. Her laughter, her warmth, the way she made me feel unstoppable. I loved her with a passion I've never matched since. We married and built a life of adventure. I pursued journalism, chasing stories in war zones and famine-stricken regions. Maria excelled as a financial expert, ambitious and brilliant, though our careers kept us apart. Our love bridged the distance. Our connection was intense. Nights filled with whispered promises and tender embraces. "Will you always love me like this?" she had asked, soft as her fingertips traced circles on my skin. "Forever," I had replied, meaning every word. For 2 blissful years we thrived. We chose to delay children, focusing instead on careers and building a foundation. The only friction was my mother. She lived alone and often sought my company, which Maria resented. I tried to mediate, but tension lingered. In January of our 3rd year, my mother became gravely ill. Despite Maria's objections, I went to care for her. 3 days later, she passed in my arms. Grieving, I returned home to Maria's sharp words. "She put us through so much trouble. She should have been in a hospital from the start." I stared at her, stunned. "She's gone, Maria. Let it be," I said, cold with disbelief. Tension lingered for days, but life moved on. We reconciled, and I left shortly after for an assignment in Afghanistan. Upon returning, Maria confronted me with an ultimatum. "Donald, either you find a job that keeps you home or let me come with you. I can't risk being tempted to cheat." Her honesty cut deep. I loved her, so I made the sacrifice, leaving my prestigious job for a local TV station. Pay was significantly lower, but it kept me home. Instead of gratitude, she responded with disdain. 30% less? Are you serious?" Her disappointment foreshadowed darker days. Our intimacy faded, replaced by constant criticism. She found fault in everything, even my breathing at night. Then came the locked phone. Maria, who had never been secretive, was suddenly distant. One Thursday night, she returned home disheveled, slightly bruised, after a late work outing. When I asked, she brushed it off, but her appearance haunted me. 3 weeks later, my suspicions led me to a Motel 6 on Victory Drive. I tracked her car to room 12. Trembling, I peered through the door crack. There in dim light was Maria, my Maria with another man. They were consumed by passion, oblivious to the devastation on the other side of the door. I never imagined betrayal would wear Steve Bowman's face. My college rival, the man who once had a fleeting chance with Maria before I swept her off her feet. I stood hidden, watching my former wife cry his name. My heart, already battered by weeks of suspicion, went cold. Tears had long since dried. Only a void remained where love once thrived. 3 weeks of relentless observation had brought me here. I had prayed for a different truth, some alternate reality that could spare my heart. But the truth was raw and undeniable. A younger version of me might have stormed in, fists swinging. But I had promised an old friend, a manager, that there would be no violence. So instead I walked back to my car, a bitter smile playing on my lips, and parked behind the only Mustang in the lot, Steve's gaudy, overpriced status symbol. I reached into the glove compartment, pulled out an ice pick, and punctured all 4 tires. Small revenge, but satisfying nonetheless. An hour later, the motel doors opened, and out they came. Steve swaggered toward his car. His hand rested possessively on Maria's bare waist. She tried to pull away, her expression shifting to shock when she saw me. Her face went pale, a forced smile trembling under the weight of my gaze. "Donald," she stammered, struggling to steady her voice. "What are you doing here?" I stepped forward slowly, deliberately, my eyes fixed on hers. "Oh, I'm just observing," I said, calm but laced with venom. Maria opened her mouth to explain, but I cut her off, pointing to Steve's hand still gripping her waist. "Seems like he's taken something of mine, doesn't he?" Maria froze, lips quivering. Steve smirked, his arrogance infuriating me. "Earlier, I assumed you two were having one of those special meetings," I continued, my voice growing colder. "The kind where you get on all fours and let him take you from behind. Did he do well, Maria?" She gasped, face ghostly white, but I pressed on. "Don't bother lying. Everything you've done is on video," I said flatly. "And I'll make sure everyone sees it. Your friends, family, your boss, even Linda." Steve's smugness faltered. "Leave Linda out of this," he snapped, voice trembling with rage. "Oh, Linda's already seen everything," I replied. "She's waiting for the full video to file for divorce. You might want to kiss that Mustang goodbye. It'll be sold to pay her settlement." The last shred of Steve's composure snapped. He lunged at me, underestimating the man I'd become. Years of reporting in war zones had taught me more than storytelling. As his fist swung, I stepped aside, grabbed his wrist, and twisted it sharply. My left hook landed squarely on his chest, sending him sprawling. He staggered to his feet, only to meet my uppercut, which knocked him out cold. Maria stood frozen, horror etched across her face. "Get in the truck," I said, my voice ice. She obeyed silently. We didn't go home. Instead, I drove straight to my lawyer's office. The silence in the car was suffocating, but there were no words left for her. Once inside, we were ushered into a large conference room. Maria sat on one side, eyes wide with fear. I sat opposite, cold and unmoving. My lawyer, Ron Freeman, entered and handed her a thick envelope. "You've been served," he said curtly. "We're filing for divorce on grounds of irreconcilable differences. There's no property to divide, and your share of the joint account has already been transferred. Since you earn more than Donald, there will be no alimony. Consider it settled." Maria's hands trembled around the envelope. She looked at me, pleading, but I remained unmoved. "If you contest this," I said, voice low and lethal, "I'll change the grounds to adultery. Every video, photo, and text will be shared. You'll lose your job, your reputation, and any dignity left." Tears streamed down her face. "Don't you want to know why I did it?" she whispered. I leaned forward, eyes locking with hers. "You wanted a life I couldn't give you," I said. "Fast cars, luxury hotels, fancy dinners. Steve gave you the fantasy, didn't he? But he wasn't offering forever. Just a few months of cheap thrills. And now you're holding an envelope with nothing left. I stood and walked out, leaving her behind. Months later, the divorce was finalized. Steve didn't dare press charges. Linda used the evidence I provided to secure her own divorce, leaving him penniless. As for me, life moved on. I returned to journalism, rebuilding my career and my life. Eventually, I found Lorraine, a woman who gave me the love I deserved. Together, we built a beautiful family. Years later, sitting in an airport lounge, I glanced across the room. Lorraine, radiant as ever, chatted animatedly with a woman I recognized instantly. Maria. Past and present collided, but I felt no bitterness, only gratitude. Later, boarding the plane, I leaned toward Lorraine. "What were you and Maria talking about?" She smiled knowingly. She was just telling me how much she misses her old life. How she'd give anything to have what you have. I smiled, leaning back with my eyes closed. Maria's choices had cost her everything, but they had given me the life I never knew I needed.